Hello, today I want to cover basic modeling tools within Maya. And we're going to use this simple cube to do that. Not really going to model anything today, just going to go over some of the tools that are used to create shapes and how they're used in Maya. Now first, one thing to say is I don't use every single tool in Maya, and you'll see different people use different tools in different ways throughout Maya. So these are the way I use the tools. I think they're pretty common, but some people may use things a little bit differently. Not wrong in any shape or form, but they are just doing it in a different way. Right, so let's start with this basic cube here. And what I want to do is I do most of my modeling using the modeling toolkit over here, as well as some shortcuts. So this is what we want to sort of spend our time on. We'll also get up here into edit mesh, maybe a little bit into mesh tools and mesh as well, just to show off some of those things. But before I start, what I really like to do when I'm modeling is I like to be able to see this wireframe on top of my model at all times. And so to get that, I go over here into my viewport settings, into shading, and I'm going to turn on wireframe on shaded, right like that. So when I take this off, you can see I can still see the wireframe that I have here. All right, so the cool thing is we'll go ahead and just start by right-clicking on our object, and you see we can choose edge, vertex, or face. Those are going to be our main ones, and then we can also jump back to the object mode. I'm going to go into face. You can see these are our faces, right? If I go up to edge, you can see these are our edges. And then lastly, but not least, we have our vertexes right like that. Now the cool thing about using the modeling toolkit is that we can both right click here just like normal, but all of those are available up here as well. So we have the full object here, we have the vertexes or the points, we have the edges, we have the faces or polygons, and then we have UVs, which we're not going to get into. But we can also do this multi-component here. And the cool thing about this is that it is sort of mouse sensitive. You see I can choose a face or a polygon there, then I can choose a edge and then go straight to a vertex. So I often will work with that just because it speeds things up a little bit. So let's start with a simple face selection here, and we'll use the Extrude tool. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on that. You'll notice a couple of things. First of all, our gizmo here changes a bit. We also have this little tool that shows up. Let's just grab this and move this up, and you can see that it sort of extrudes out from that face. And you see we have this translate that's happening, and I could change that just by left mouse clicking on there too. So if you wanted an exact number like 10, you could type that in as well. I'll pull that down a little bit. We can also scale, right, and bring these in. And notice I'm still sort of in this extrusion tool while I'm doing all this. And if you wanted to, you could rotate as well. I'm going to go ahead and hit W, and that gets me out of that tool, puts me back into the move tool. Now let's take, say for example, these two polygons right here. So just shift selecting this other one right here, and let's go into our extrude tool again. And let's see what happens when I pull this up. And you can see that those are staying together and sort of extruding outward, but trying to sort of keep that weld in between. Excellent. Let's just undo that. And let's turn this keep faces together off. So we'll turn that off. And now let's do this again. And you see, we have a very different look. And so just knowing which one you want to use can be very, very helpful. Now, very, very important. If, for example, we have, here, let me add another cube here real quick. If I had another cube off here to the side, bring that up just a little bit bigger, and I'll give this some segments just so we can see what this looks like. Let's just give it something like that. If I take this now and I go into my modeling toolkit, we'll choose that multi-component, and we'll choose these faces here, and go into my extrude, and I've got my keep faces together on, and so great, that looks like that. Perfect. But now let's just hit W, and let's hit extrude again, but this time turn this off and pull these up. Do you note that they look the same, but they're not? And this is a very common mistake. So let me hit W and let me show you what's actually happened. Do you see what has actually happened here is that it's created these polygons that are separate from one another. And that can cause problems later on if that's not what you were looking for. Right, so we'll just grab this object and delete that object. Right. So the Extrude tool, very, very powerful tool to work with. We can also grab, let me just undo, I don't want to do it on the whole object here. I want to just grab a polygon, so we'll just grab a couple polygons here. We'll just use this one to start. I can also do sort of what is like an inset, all right? And so instead of giving it a local translate, we'll leave that there. I could do a thickness, same sort of idea, just applied a little bit differently. But one I use quite a bit is this in offset here, and that brings that down right like that. Then I can go ahead and pull that out. You can see I've got like a little bevel, sort of like what I have up here. But instead I could hit the G, right? The G, and that basically says, hey, I want to do the same tool that I just did. So I'll hit G, and it doesn't look like I did anything different, but notice if I pull this out now, I'm extruding, and it sort of reset everything like that. So I could hit G again, and do a little scale here, and do a little scale here, and you see that's very similar to that offset. So there's a lot of different ways that we could do this. So I hit G again, and pull that back out right like that. All right? So a lot of things that we can do for our extrusion. We can even add some more segments or divisions for that right in there. Be careful with that. That sometimes adds too many polygons. You want to just be careful when you do that. Right, so that is the basics of the Extrude tool. Now, I'm going to show you another way that we can do that. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit W. And one thing that Maya allows us to do is while we're in our polygons here, we can hold down Shift, right? And it will allow us, you can see that as I hold down Shift and then grab hold of this, bringing that out, it will allow us to extrude that as well, and then I can scale and all of that. Now let's see what happens if I'm in scale, which again is the shortcut for that is the R tool, and I hold down Shift. Notice I can extrude here too, and oh look, I've got that little inset or that sort of internal offset there. I could switch over to W, hold down Shift, and do that. You can see I'm sort of on the same way here. So I don't have to use this tool. I can use the Shift key to create that as well. We can even do it with the rotation tool, though that's less likely, but I can do that. You can see it sort of goes inside, but we can definitely see that that still works. So holding down that Shift is another way to do the extrude. So that's the Extrude tool.